Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. Tell you what, if you loved MTV in the 80s, you are gonna love this channel. This is your place. Subscribe right now so you can get in on the conversation and be a part of this music community celebrating the best of the era. So also, if you wanna help our cause, click on the Patreon link below that helps us do more videos, more interviews, and we give you more content. So I'm excited to present another episode of 80s Hidden Gems, my favorite. 5 seemingly Passover songs from the 80s that ought to be in more regular rotation in our lives. But this time, I do want to mix it up again. I'm going to cover 5 hidden gems from the 80s from a movie soundtrack. Now these are songs that ought to be revisited, and you can do that in the playlist below. So let's get right into it. Number 5, Walking on a Thin Line by Huey Lewis and the News from the 1984 movie The Wildlife. So we actually just talked about this forgotten teen movie the other day when we did our segment on Van Halen, because Eddie Van Halen wrote the score to this movie, and it actually had an early version of the 1992 hit Right Now in it. So the movie was built this way.
From the creators of Fast Times at Ridgemont High comes something even faster.
Yeah, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And some assumed that it was a cousin to the film, because it did cover similar themes. It was also written by Cameron Crowe. It did have a few things in common with its predecessor. Instead of Sean Penn, though, it starred his brother, the late Chris Penn from Footloose fame. He was great in that. It also had Eric Stoltz and Thompson, who would join up ever so briefly the next year for Back to the Future until Michael J. Fox replaced Stoltz. Alas, they would return again, though, and John Hughes, Some Kind of Wonderful. Great movie. The film would perform well below expectations, but it did have a pretty great soundtrack. Prince, Dirty Mind, Madonna, Burning Up. This is before Madonna was a huge star. The aforementioned Eddie Van Halen and producer Don Landy's score. There was the title track from Bananarama and a song by Huey Lewis and the News. Huey was peaking at that moment with sports, elbowing its way to the top of the charts at that moment. Huey's contribution to the film was the catchy yet gritty Walking on a Thin Line. It was a song that was actually about a Vietnam vet, a very great song. It was featured on Sports, and it went to number 27 on the Hot 100. So here's what Huey told me about the song in a recent interview.
It was written for the vets. It's written by a guy called Andre Pessis, who's a good friend of ours, and Kevin Wells. Kevin Wells was a drummer in Clover, the last drummer in Clover, and he wrote the music, and Andre wrote the lyric, and they wanted me to sing it for a demo. And so I just, as a favor to them, I said, sure, I'll sing it. I hadn't heard it. I fell in love with the tune. I just thought, this is great. We'll do it.
I mean, the tears and the sweat only mock my desperation.
It's written for the Vietnam vets.
This song was written about the Vietnam War. And although none of us went, we had a lot of friends that did.
Now we dedicate to all the veterans, but it was a different time. You got to remember in Vietnam, that was we had the draft there. It was we had a lot of discontent, and it was a really tough time. And I think the song, for those of us who lived in that time, it rings.
A lot of people died over there, and a lot of people got real screwed up. And this one's for them.
I love your live versions of it. Every time I can hear a different live version of it, because there's a lot of passion there. And, and I love it labeled as Freaks Loose on the Streets of the City. The second verse, when you say, taught me how to shoot to kill.
Taught me how to shoot to kill.
That's one of the greatest sounds in a song ever. The way that you guys got that on record.
I can't remember how we did that. I think
shotgun.
I think we actually did a shot. We actually shot. In Hard to Rock and Roll, the New Yorkers, everything saying, nobody said everything. That's a real car that we mic'd up outside the studio.
Sounds like
an old 1954 Dodge, with one of those old horns. And I think we mic'd up a shotgun.
Number 4, Peggy Sue Got Married by Buddy Holly. From Peggy Sue Got Married, the film starring Kathleen Turner and a young Nicolas Cage, who gives us one of the strangest acting performances of the decade. He said that he was trying to imitate Pokey from The Gumby Show.
I want to suck your blood. I also want to suck your Twinkie.
And apparently Kathleen Turner hated his guts. Now this pick is breaking the rules just a little bit because Buddy Holly's song was, of course, realized decades before, but we can bend the rules a little for one of the greatest pioneers of rock, one of my favorite artists ever. These glasses, these Annie glasses, are a little tribute to him. They kind of look like his. Anyway, Buddy's music would actually appear several times in the 80s in films like Stand By Me in 86, La Bamba in 87. Now in the 80s, America was head over heels nostalgic for the 50s, much like, we're nostalgic right now for the 80s. But Peggy Sue Got Married, it's a time travel film, and I actually watched it for the first time in probably 20 years the other day. And I wasn't disappointed. It's directed by Francis Ford Coppola. It includes a young Jim Carrey and Helen Hunt. It's a pretty good movie. The song Peggy Sue Got Married was a sequel to Buddy Holly's biggest hit, Peggy Sue, which went to number 2. Peggy Sue got married not long ago. It was about Buddy's friend and bandmate Jerry Allison's girlfriend, wife, and eventual ex-wife, Peggy Sue Gerron, who sadly passed away in 2018. I was very fortunate to do a phone interview with Peggy Sue several months before she passed. And here's what she said about Buddy Holly and the song. Buddy wrote a sequel to it, Peggy Sue Got Married, and he recorded that demo in his New York City apartment. I think it was December 5th, 1958, with just he and his guitar. And then that tape was discovered after his death, and I think you actually were one of the first ones to find that tape. Tell me that story.
Well, we had gone to New York. Jerry Allison and I did get married, and we had gone to New York. And Joe B., the rest of the group, and they were there settling up. I think that's when Jerry Allison gave his part of Peggy Sue away. But at any rate, Maria Elena had invited me to come stay with her. And anyway, we had gone to New York to do that, and Maria Elena had said, would you like to go by and see the apartment? And I said, sure. And when I walked into the apartment, the only thing that was there was no furniture. The only thing that was there was Buddy's guitar and the tape recorder that Norman Petty had given him for writing. And she said, do you want to hear the last 5 songs he wrote? And I said, yes, I do. And she turned it on. And that's when I heard it.
Oh, wow. Well, of course, it's used over the opening credits of the 86 Kathleen Turner and Nicolas Cage, Peggy Sue Got Married, and of course inspired that title in the movie.
Absolutely, and we almost got an award for it.
Number 3, Young Hearts by Commuter from The Karate Kid from 1984. Holy crap, I love this song. Even though it's a fairly simple pop song, it's magical because it's so 80s. Whenever I hear it, it's like everything around me transforms into a flashing neon 80s wonderland. I know you feel the same. It's a slice of our childhood that makes me scream with joy. I don't know about you, but whenever I hear it, I want to take a trip down to Golf and Stuff with the nerdy hero Daniel LaRusso and the angelic 80s goddess Allie Mills and play some air hockey or something. The song was performed by Dave Miranda, also written by him, a Grammy-winning composer, producer, and singer. He also co-wrote the Sarah McLachlan classic, I Will Remember You. Now, the song does contain the very classic lyrics, young hearts beat fast, driving down the road, rubber, plastic, metal, glass. Why did you have to go? Now, as a kid, I always heard it as young hearts beat fast, driving down the road in a plastic metal glass. I was like, what? What is a plastic metal glass? How could it be metal if it's plastic? Driving down the road, rubber, plastic, metal, glass. Now, the song didn't chart, but it did make a comeback recently, having been used in the first season of Cobra Kai, when Daniel LaRusso's own daughter goes on a date to Golf and Stuff. This plays in the background in a similar fashion to the original film. And when that was happening, we 40-something 80s kids watched with joy. We were pumping our fist with delight. I gotta tell you, I know you were. Number 2, Love of the Common People by Paul Young from the John Hughes classic, 16 Candles. 16 Candles was John Hughes' first teen movie. It not only soared at the box office, it opened the door for everything that followed, really.
You're still 15.
And also introduced the world to one Molly Ringwald, and teen movies would never be the same thereafter. Love of the Common People was written long ago by John Hurley and Ronnie Wilkins. It was first cut by the Four Preps in 1967. It's been covered many times since then. Everybody from the Everly Brothers, Waylon Jennings, and Bruce Springsteen. And of course, 80s icon Paul Young, who had his biggest hit in 1985 covering Daryl Hall and John Oates' soulful song, Every Time You Go Away, which went to number 1. Paul Young recorded his version. It failed to chart at first, but here's what Paul himself told me about the song in an interview that we did. Number 2 in the UK. It was released in 82, and initially it failed to chart, but then as the other songs did well, Wherever I Lay My Hat, and of course Come Back and Stay, re-released, went to number 2, did very well. That was first covered by Waylon Jennings. Did you ever hear that version?
Yeah, I've got the Waylon Jennings version. I've got the Four Preps, Nicky Thomas, mine. It's quite a well-covered song.
Yeah.
He is living in the love of the common people. Smile. She's living in the love of the common people. Smile. Living in the love of the common people. Smile from the heart of a family man.
But like I say, I'd only heard, I was 14 when the reggae version came out, so that's all I knew.
Oh, she's living in the love of the common people. Smiles through the heart of a family man.
It was only much later that I went back and found that it was a country song, so I looked back and found the Waylon version.
The music video, your parents were in that video.
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
What do you remember about the music video?
They gave us the princely sum of £5,000 to make it, and, which was nothing. So my manager was supplementing his percentages, my manager, by running a venue in London.
Yeah.
It was called The Venue, and it was in Victoria. So he said, with much jiggling around, he got the venue for nothing. And loads of the people that used to work at the venue are in the video.
Yeah.
So a load of my friends. And then the director said, I'd like to have your mum and dad in it. But he said, but your real mum and dad. He said, what's the point of getting actors? We might as well have the real thing. So we got them into the video.
Well,
I didn't have to pay them.
Well, using 16 Candles, too, that was also something that helped to put you on the map in America, because, of course, John Hughes was churning out these teen movies that have since been cast in gold here in America. I mean, people are still discovering those movies. He had to have been a fan, though, because he used it in 16 Candles and then later used Every Time You Go Away as really the big finale in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah. Of course, that one, though, by that time, Warners were at war with CBS.
Yeah.
And Walter Yetnikoff wouldn't let my version in.
I know.
Which was really annoying.
About that.
I think some friends of mine even went to see an early cut in LA. And they were the ones that told me it's going to be in the movie. And I was, yeah, great, you know.
With a whole lot of love and a warm conversation, but don't forget to pray.
Now, before we announce the #1 spot, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. You can design your own pair of glasses just like I did here, these blue ones. So this is one I'm wearing today. You can do that at the link below. You'll love it. So at #1, Bust a Move by Marvin Young, otherwise known as Young MC, from another John Hughes classic, Uncle Buck, starring the brilliant John Candy. John is always the scene stealer. He has one of the greatest scenes in an 80s movie right here.
You so much as scowl at my niece or any other kid in this school, and I hear about it, and I'm coming looking for you. Take this quarter. Go downtown and have a rat gnaw that thing off your face.
There's also this one. So I feel like I'm bending the rules again with this one, because to me, I don't really consider Bust a Move to be a hidden gem. It's been referenced in pop culture quite a bit, since it peaked at #7 in 1989. But it is a hidden gem for many that were born after the 80s.
Says she wanna dance cause she likes the groove, so come on, fatso, and just bust the move.
I think that Young MC was a brilliant rapper, and he should have been so much bigger than he was or he is. He has some funny follow-ups to this song, and I own the album Stone Cold Rhymin', one of the best rap records of that year, and many don't know that actually Young MC co-wrote two of the biggest rap hits of the late 80s, with and for another popular rapper of the time, Mr. Tone Loc. There was Wild Thing that featured the sample from Van Halen's Jamie's Cryin'.
You know what I mean? Let's do the wild thing.
And Funky Cold Medina also heavily sampled. Bust a Move also used a few samples, had parts from music by Bette Midler. There was Ball and Jack, Royal Cash, and Dennis Coffey and the Detroit Guitar Band.
Hello, come sit next to me, you fine fellow. You run over there without a second to lose, and what comes next?
It's just such a feel-good jam. It attracted everybody at that moment.
Bust it.
Bust a Move also featured guest vocals by Crystal Blake and bass guitar by Flea, Red Hot Chili Peppers. They both appear in the music video.
Get some play, then you try to make a move, and she says no way. Girls are faking, goodness saking.
I discussed this song with Young MC in an interview recently, and I'm going to share a short part of that. But I tell you what, we're going to be doing a full mini documentary on this song down the road. It's such a great song.
A girl runs up with something to prove, so don't just stand there, bust a move.
Here's the story about it, because the pop chart or whatever the chart was, I think we made it to number 7.
Yeah, you're number 7 overall, but you were on rap charts, you were on the dance charts. It was a crossover hit.
It stayed on that pop chart for 40 weeks, which is pretty much unheard of.
Exactly.
But what had happened, MTV had gotten a hold of it, started playing the video. So people got into it from the video. They started buying the record from the video, so we got record sales. Once radio saw the record sales and the video play, they said, okay, now we're going to start playing it on radio.
Yeah.
By the time it started really getting in the rotation on radio, I was mad touring. It was just touring all over the place, trying to blow the record up, trying to, do what I can and get it entrenched at radio, because we didn't really have strong radio when it broke.
Yeah.
Because there weren't places. There was no such thing as a churban station. There was no such thing as a pop station that says, okay, we'll just play this rap record. Tone, Wild Thing had got broken on K-Rock, KROQ, the alternative station and all of that. That was the first major station to play that record. So they weren't going to play Bust a Move, so there was more of an R&B station kind of thing, and then just the groundswell of people liking the record, and then it got more play. And I benefit from that now, that slow build, because there's not a lot of people that are really sick of the record.
No.
Which, it didn't really get played out. It never got a chance to be jammed into your head 70 times a week.
Right.
And I think I benefit from that in terms of licenses and in terms of uses that people still think fondly of the record and don't think back to a time when every station you turn on and it was on.
Playing it, yeah.
Yeah.
Break it down for me, fellas.
So there you have it. 5 more hidden gems from the wondrous decade that we know as the 80s. Leave us a comment about these songs and artists. Now, what other songs do you feel like we should cover on here? What are some of your memories of these songs? The first time you heard it, the first time you saw the music video. You can hear all these songs in the YouTube playlist below. Also, go check out our 80s store below. I put a lot of books and music and shirts, all handpicked by me. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. Check out our Patreon, and you can get a lot of content there. You're going to love it. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.